Hey there, true crime fans and Arconia addicts. Today, we're recapping everything that went down in Season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. After wrapping up their latest podcast season, the trio celebrates at Charles's place, unaware that Sazz has been murdered and her body vanished. The next day, Charles receives a text from Sazz claiming she's in LA, but things quickly unravel. Paramount approaches them about a movie deal, so they fly to Hollywood and meet their on-screen counterparts, Eugene Levy, Zach Galifianakis, and Eva Longoria. Charles discovers Sazz never made it to Bacula's set, and the trio finds troubling clues in her LA apartment, all centered on Charles. Back in New York, they uncover blood and a bullet hole at Charles's window, then stumble upon Sazz's ashes and prosthetics in the Arconia incinerator. Meanwhile, the impersonator texting as Sazz sends a chilling threat. Oliver and Mabel investigate West Side Arconia residence, suspecting Sazz's shooter came from there. They meet Vince Fish, a charming man with an eye patch, and a Hispanic family who share stories and a card game called Oh Hell. They mention a locked unit owned by the mysterious Dudenoff. Using a code from Sazz's note, Oliver and Mabel break in and find a pig in the tub and a ham radio. Meanwhile, Charles is grieving when Jan suddenly appears. She's escaped prison and warns him Sazz feared someone was after him. Before the police arrive, Jan vanishes. Charles finally reports Sazz's murder. With luminol, the trio finds where Sazz collapsed and sees she wrote, "Tap in her blood," a final message to Charles. Oliver realizes the code numbers from earlier spell "Oh Hell" upside down. With the FBI now leading Sazz's case, Detective Williams discreetly helps the trio, sharing details about the sniper's weapon. Meanwhile, Eugene, Zach, and Eva shadow Charles, Oliver, and Mabel for their upcoming film. Zach initially sees Oliver as self-absorbed until Howard explains Oliver's perseverance, shifting Zach's view. Mabel and Eva investigate Rudy Thurber after finding tinsel in Dudenoff's apartment. Rudy admits he hates Christmas and that the shiny strand isn't tinsel, it's non-flammable, raising new questions. Elsewhere, Charles and Eugene spot a group photo in Vince's place. One person is holding a pig and has their face crossed out. Determined to trap Dudenoff, Mabel decides to stay in their apartment using squatters' rights. Later, the trio tunes into a ham radio frequency and makes contact only to be warned to stop investigating. The trio follows Sazz's trail to a stunt performer bar, where Charles learns from Dr. Maggie that Sazz planned to retire. With help from Ben Glenroy's former double, Charles honors Sazz's memory by performing in her place at a stunt funeral and recalls her dream of opening a training camp. Meanwhile, Mabel learns the entire West Tower is illegally sublet by Professor Dudenoff, who lives in Portugal. The residents admit to paying only $200 a month and reveal that the ham radio threat came from Rudy's paranoid ex. Helga none had ever met Sazz. As the trio visits the spot Sazz wanted for her future camp, they're stunned to find Bev waiting for them with a gun pointed at them. Bev reveals she was investigating Sazz's death after receiving a cryptic voicemail from her about a problem with the film. Suspecting the killer is part of the movie crew, the trio interrogates screenwriter Marshall P. Pope, who's faking his persona but has a solid alibi. After Oliver fails to recreate the murder timeline, Mabel spots a matching shoe print in crew photos. With Eva's help, the trio lays a trap using tacky mats during a photo shoot. They confirm the prints match directors Tawny and Trina brothers just before the lights go out and a gunshot rings through the set. After Zach and Glenn are shot, the trio suspects Oliver was the real target and that they're all in danger. Detective Williams reveals Dudenoff never left the country and was once the film professor of the Brothers Sisters. Charles finds 2 left shoulder joints in Sazz's remains, hinting at a second victim. Confronting the directors, they admit to visiting Dudenoff's apartment to install hidden cameras, but Mabel reveals the second shoulder belonged to Dudenoff, meaning Sazz may have discovered his murder. The trio receives threatening messages and surveillance footage of themselves, realizing the killer has been watching them all along. They flee the Arconia in search of safety. The trio hides out at Charles's sister Doreen's Long Island home. Tensions rise as Loretta clashes with Doreen over Oliver, but both couples eventually reconcile, with Loretta accepting Oliver's marriage proposal. The visiting actors suggest the killer might be the same person who sent threats during Season 1, and Sazz's notes seem to support this theory. Meanwhile, Howard calls with a breakthrough. West Tower residents have been cashing Social Security checks under Dudenoff's name. The West Tower residents meet with the trio and the actors, sharing how Dudenoff helped them before his terminal illness and secret suicide. They'd hidden his death to protect their arrangement, and Helga confirms Sazz had reached out before dying. Though the trio loses a lead, Mabel agrees not to expose them on the podcast. But a new clue arises. Sazz had warned Helga that a former stunt protege had become dangerous. The trio suspects Glenn, based on a past film they both worked on. The trio learns Glenn replaced Sazz's former protege, Rex Bailey, on the project. While trying to track down Ron Howard for answers, Glenn is murdered before Mabel can question him. Charles and Oliver eventually find Ron, who confirms Rex's identity and shares a photo. Meanwhile, Mabel finds that Sazz had hidden the original movie script with herself credited as the writer in a beer box from the night she died. As Marshall arrives to discuss script changes, Charles and Oliver identify him as Rex and send the info to Mabel, just as Marshall sees the message. Charles and Oliver sneak across the Arconia's ledge to save Mabel from Rex, with help from Vince and Ruddy. The trio corners Rex, who confesses he murdered Sazz to cover up stealing her script and selling it to Paramount. Before he can kill them too, Jan shoots Rex dead from Charles's apartment. Avenging Sazz then gets arrested again. Days later, at Oliver and Loretta's wedding, a woman named Sophia Caximlio asks Charles and Mabel to investigate her missing husband, hinting at a link to the Arconia. They decline until the next morning, when they find Lester, the doorman, dead in the fountain. That was Season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. Twists, turns, and a whole lot of Arconia drama. If you enjoyed this recap, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments.